second worst possible outcome, which is an ANC co-opted individual and an ANC co-opted organization. The ANC was able to posture as if they are voting for somebody who's not within their ranks, but when we know that essentially that is exactly what is happening. The compromise candidate was Makashule Gana. Given that, first of all, you've read his credentials, he's very much deep-rooted in the DA DNA, and then, of course, he's also a part of his party, rather, RISE. Mzansi is part of the GNU, and we knew that, possibly in the background, the horse trading that was happening was that the ANC were eventually, cashing in on the dishing out of positions in different, legislative.
Further on this is Makashule Gana, the chairperson of the committee. Makashule, good evening. Thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate it. This is quite a big moment for a small party like Rise Mzansi in Parliament with only 2 seats, but I also guess that means that there's no comrades marathon for you this year. I think the first and important thing you and I have to discuss is the resource allocation of this committee. What the impeachment, what the Section 89 independent panel struggled with was resources, specifically the lack of resources to do any sort of investigative and forensics work outside of just being able to call witnesses to appear before Parliament. I mean, it had a further layer of difficulty, which is that it had no subpoena powers. You fortunately do have subpoena powers in this instance. But resources for this committee is going to be an important consideration. Have you had a conversation with the Speaker of Parliament about that just yet?
Thank you very much, Oliver, and good evening to you, good evening to the viewers. Comrade Marathon is going to take place on the 14th of June, and I will run that marathon. We accept this responsibility of leading this committee. It's an important day for South Africa. It's the first time that we have this committee in democratic South Africa, and we accept this responsibility, taking into account just the weight of the committee, but the expectations that South Africans have. I haven't yet had a conversation with the Speaker. Tomorrow I will be meeting with a team that has been assigned to support this committee so that we begin the work preparing for the first meeting of the impeachment committee. So that's the work that's going to happen tomorrow. They gave me the space today so that I can be able to engage with South Africans through the media. So from tomorrow, the work begins.
When you say you'll be meeting with the team that has been assigned to assist this committee, does that mean the technical parliamentary support staff team, or does that mean you'll be meeting with the evidence leader, presumably a senior counsel that will be assisting the committee?
So, evidence leader that has been appointed.
Okay.
I'm talking about the parliamentary support staff. There is already the secretary that's appointed. There's the researcher that will be appointed. There's a committee assistant that has been seconded to the committee. So that's the team that's going to meet, but also to check with the Speaker's office, the Secretary of the National Assembly, in terms of the kind of resources that a committee of this magnitude needs to be supported. To the point that you raised earlier, it's important that for this committee to do what it needs to do, it needs to have the kind of support that it can get to the truth without fear, favor, and prejudice.
Will you be asking for the allocation of forensics support to be allocated to the committee?
We are going to ask for all the possible support. All the support that will aid.
Open for nominations, the ANC was the first party to raise its hand.
My name is Mikata Komashaule, deployed by the African National Congress. I stand to nominate the name of Honorable Makashule Gana.
This nomination was seconded by the DA and supported by the PA, FF+, IFP, Al-Jamaa and Rise Mzansi. While Dr. Wonderboy Mahlatsi's name was supported by the parties forming part of the Progressive Caucus. Gana was a DA MP between 2014 and 2016, served as the Deputy Federal Chair of the party, represented the party as a councillor and was a DA youth leader. He was appointed as National Organizer of Rise Mzansi in 2023 and he returned to Parliament as an MP for this party in 2024. Gana says he knows his task as chairperson of this impeachment committee won't be easy.
I think with the lessons that Parliament has learned with the ad hoc committee, which was an important lesson, that when there's a working together of the political parties, a lot more congeniality between the members of the committee, it does assist greatly. So for me, as the chairperson, is to ensure that all the members of the committee feel that they are part of the committee, that there's no bias towards one party or the other, that at all times we remain loyal to the Constitution, we remain loyal to the rules that we have adopted as Parliament, and that's the role that I will play and be impartial, be able to ensure that the work that comes out of the committee is one that can stand legal scrutiny.
He outlines why it was important that the chair of this committee does not come from the ANC benches.
It's very important, especially when you don't have a member in the executive, because the impeachment process does affect members in the executive, and that was our position as Mzansi. But also, it's important to just for people's trust in the process, that you have someone that's not in the ANC, that is not swayed either in the ANC or any of the parties, whether it's the ANC, the DA. So for me, it was to let's get someone that is not from the bigger parties.
ANC Chief Whip Mdumiseni Ntuli shares the sentiment.
One of our late leaders, President Owal Tambo, said to us one day, when the ANC stopped thinking, things are going to become difficult and it will be defeated. When we were engaging with other political parties, we realized that there is a growing concern about the ANC taking over all what appears to be major responsibilities. We are chairing the ad hoc committee. Obviously, we had an interest that we can chair the impeachment committee, but as we're consulting in the GNU, the point was made that the ANC must reflect on whether or not it only believes that the work of the committee will succeed if the ANC is at the helm. And my conclusion was that no, that's not the case.
Gana says his first duty as committee chair is to meet with the committee staff to sort out administrative matters. This includes looking at scheduling, terms of reference, as well as time.
To get to the truth, that will aid the committee to ensure that the work that we do restores the trust in the ability of Parliament to hold the executive accountable.
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, one of the limitations that the Section 89 panel, independent panel, had, that was led by Justice Trobo, was that it had no subpoena power, so it could only do with what was before it, beyond its limitation of other resources. One of the controversial questions that this committee will face is whether or not President Cyril Ramaphosa will appear as a witness before this committee. Coming into this committee, and when you first were appointed by your party to sit on this committee, what was your attitude pertaining to that question? And what is it that you'll be bringing to the committee as chairperson pertaining to the question specifically around the appearance of President Cyril Ramaphosa as a witness before the committee?
I will recommend to the committee that every person that can aid this committee to get to the truth needs to be invited. So it's not only President Ramaphosa. All the people that will help us make a decision will be invited to this committee.
What we saw happen before the Section 89 independent panel panel, and what we saw even happen with the ad hoc committee on the police investigating corruption and infiltration of the criminal justice system is that President Ramaphosa had responded in writing rather than appear before the committee. What will be very specifically your guidance on that question, appearing in person vis-a-vis responding in writing?
So, Oliver, you'll appreciate that this is the first Section 89 committee in democratic South Africa. So we are going to work to ensure that we get to the truth, and all the people that will help Parliament get to the truth will get to appear before Parliament. That's the attitude that I have, and that's the attitude that I believe members of the committee will also adopt. Because at the end of the day, we are not in this committee to serve ourselves, to serve our jackets. We are here to serve the people of this country. We are loyal first and foremost to the Constitution of the Republic, to the people of this country, and we have that responsibility to restore the trust in Parliament's ability to hold the executive to account without fear, favor, or prejudice. The processes ought to be fair to everyone. They have to be fair to the president. They have to be fair to the members of the committee, to be fair to the witnesses that are going to appear before the committee. And everyone must come out having appeared before that committee with the trust that indeed the committee will be guided by facts and not by fiction or wishful thinking.
Yeah. Well, I guess I have to ask you this now because you're going to run it. What's your target time for the comrades?
Is to finish and get back to work of serving in the impeachment committee as a chairperson.
Yeah.
I will definitely finish, comrades. I don't start something and not finish. So on the 14th of June, I'll line up with other 20,000 ultra-marathon runners, and we are going to conclude and complete the comrades marathon. So this responsibility does not take away my commitment to finish the comrades marathon. Actually, the comrades marathon is going to be the fuel that I need to be able to execute this important responsibility that has been bestowed on me this afternoon by my fellow members of Parliament.
Well, there you get it. Thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate it. The Council for the Advancement of the South African Constitution's Director, and that's Lawson Naidu. Lawson, a very good afternoon to you. Your thoughts around the appointment or election, I should say, of Makashule Gana?
Good afternoon, Vuyo. Thank you. Yeah, look, it's not a surprise. I think it would have been entirely inappropriate for someone from the ANC, for example, to chair this committee, given that it is their president whose conduct will be investigated by the impeachment committee. And I think Mr. Gana makes a good choice for this position. Obviously, the work of the commission is going to come under great public and media scrutiny. So everything that Mr. Gana does as chair of that committee will be scrutinized, and he's given us a commitment that he will follow the dictates of the Constitution, ensure an independent and hopefully robust process once the committee's work gets underway. So I think, this was the first hurdle to overcome, was to elect a chair of that committee. Now that we've got that, the committee can begin now to focus on the tasks that lie ahead of it. Obviously, the next steps which you've discussed already.
Of course, he's a former youth leader of the Democratic Alliance, and that party has actually backed him, alongside the ANC. What do you think? Was it a preemptive strike, you think, on the part of the ANC, given that the other parties had made it clear in the build-up to today that they will not be, they wouldn't want an ANC person to chair this committee?
Yeah, I think it was clear from the outset that other political parties, including parties in the GNU, would not have been happy with an ANC person chairing this committee. So the ANC, was forced to find a middle ground, as it were, and it seems that they've settled as the GNU parties on Mr. Makashule Gana as the person to lead this committee, he's won with a comfortable majority of votes amongst the committee members, but it was inevitable that it would have been the optics of it would not have been good had it been an ANC person that was chairing this committee, because they would be accused inevitably of seeking to shield the president, whatever they actually did. So this is probably better that it's someone from outside of the big parties, in fact. And Mr. Gana, who's an experienced politician and a member of parliament, to steer this committee to actually execute its mandate.
Of course, the committee itself does have its work cut out, and I was chatting to a couple of opposition party MPs last week who I got a sense that they want to push the envelope as far as possible, and in other words, not look narrowly at what the Constitutional Court ruling says, and one wonders whether there will in fact be space for pushing the envelope.
Well, it's not so much what the Constitutional Court said, because the Constitutional Court judgment was clear and narrow. It said Parliament must proceed to establish the impeachment committee. But the impeachment committee itself comes about, and this whole process comes about because of the original motion that was placed on the agenda of the National Assembly by Mr. Zungula from the ATM, which laid 4 specific charges against the president relating to the fact that he undertook paid work in service of the Pala Pala farm, that there were issues of conflicts of interest with regards to Major General Wally Ruda and so on. And the report of the independent panel is also focused on those 4 discrete issues that were in the motion. And therefore, the task of the impeachment committee now is to delve deeper into those 4 issues. And I think that this is where the challenge that Mr. Makashule Gana is going to face is to focus the committee on those 4 charges and the evidence related to those, and not allow it to become a free-for-all, which it will, inevitably seek to become because of the political nature of a committee of the National Assembly. But also, we can't ignore the fact that we are in the run-up to elections in just a few months' time.
Of course, I mean, still no indication on the part of the president that he may interdict this particular process.
Yeah, well, I think, the president is playing a wait-and-see game, I think, and that was clear from his application court last week, where, I think the president believes that there may be a move by the committee itself to suspend its substantive work in terms of the investigative part of its inquiry, pending the outcome of the president's High Court challenge. But if the committee decides to proceed regardless, then I think, the president has indicated in those papers that he himself may seek an interdict from the court to stop that from happening. So we'll have to see how that plays out over the next couple of weeks, because obviously the next order of business for the committee will be to adopt terms of reference for its work, which speaks to the issue I've just outlined, that the 4 charges in the original impeachment motion, and whether there will be an evidence leader, who that evidence leader will be, and how the committee will actually go about conducting its work in terms of the times allocated to each of the parties to ask questions, etc. As we've seen, for example, very recently, the work of the ad hoc committee on the allegations made by General Wanasi.
So are we to read then because on this issue, the president has moved fairly fast, which is untypical of him. So are we to read then that the fact that he has up until now not carried out his threat that he may interdict the process, are we then to read that he's probably going to let this one lie?
Well, I don't know. I think, as I say, reading between the lines, well, not between the lines, but reading his affidavit to court last week, he's basically said if the committee does not voluntarily suspend its work, its substantive work, then he may seek recourse in the courts for an interdict to stop that. But obviously, we'll have to see that. I think it's very likely that if the committee seeks to proceed with actually calling witnesses, that we will see an application from the president to halt the work of the committee, and he will argue that he will suffer irreparable harm if the allegations that he argues are premised on a flawed report of the independent panel proceeds. It will cause him irreparable harm. Whether he's able to convince the court of that is going to be the key test in whether or not he succeeds in getting that interdict.
Lawson Naidoo, thank you very much.